some tips and tricks on how I color my hair with foils. Some of you guys have asked for more hair styling, hair like stylist type videos. And so I thought this would be a great video to show you today because I'm desperately in need of a color. I'll show you what I'm going to be doing today, and I'll also share with you some tips and tricks on how you can make it easier. If you're someone who's already a stylist, these might be things that might be helpful for you. Or if you're someone who is like me and you're coloring your hair on your own anyway. There is a reason why cosmetologists go to school for such a long time. I went for 2,000 hours and I've been doing hair for almost 12 years. So I know a thing or two about doing hair, and so I hope these things are helpful for you if you guys are new, or if these things that you just want to do on yourself just so you can save some money at home. Alright, first of all, you have to come up with a plan, and you also have to think, how does the plan that I want to have relate to what my hair is? You might have this gorgeous picture of a platinum blonde, but if your hair is dyed black, that's not going to be an attainable plan. So you have to think, does what I want and what I have, is that something that I can obtain? And is it something that I can do myself? Because there's a lot of times when you have a dream of something in mind and you try to do it yourself and it fails miserably. So keep that in mind and be realistic with yourself. If there's something that you want to do that is just out of reach or makes you feel uncomfortable, it's not just adding a few highlights or face framing, whatever, then go and see a professional because you will be so happy that you did. Okay, so looking at my hair right now, from about here down, I had color in my hair and I also had lightener in my hair. I had a balayage hairstyle with really blonde ends, and then I cut my hair and I haven't colored it since I cut it. So some of these ends in the back are completely dark. I'd say about a fourth to a half is my natural color and the rest is colored to look like my natural color. So all this hair up here is what we call virgin hair, and that means it hasn't had any color or perm of any kind on it, no chemical services. So all of this hair is going to take the color a little bit differently than my virgin hair is, so that's something to keep in mind. So what I'm wanting to do today is I want to break up my base and I want to add some highlights and lowlights. I want to add some more texture and dimension to my hair without adding one single color all over. I want to use this natural color in my hair to give it more dimension instead of completely taking that out of the picture. So there's a couple different techniques that you can use to do this. You can do a balayage technique, which is where you're freehand hair painting onto your hair, or you can also just do foils. So today I'm actually going to show you how to get a balayage effect with using foils. Sometimes it's really frightening for someone who's doing this at home just to start picking up random pieces and just to put color on it. Foiling does give you a little bit more control, and if you're going to be using foils, you can section out the hair, make sure it's not bleeding. So it's a good way to do it if you're just starting out. And you still can get the effect of having the blended roots with using foils, and I'm going to show you how. So the color I'm going to be using today is actually from Matrix, and I am not sponsored by them or any way. This is just the color that I use on my clients in my salon. I also use Redken, but today I'm going to be using the Matrix Color Sync line. I like this because it's a deposit only color and it gently fades out of the hair, so I'm not going to have a strong demarcation line. So I'm tired of my lowlights and they kind of fade out, and it makes it easier to lift the color out of the hair when I'm finished. So before you start formulating your color, you need to find out what level you are first. So I have this color finder. This just comes inside my little book here, and it has 10 being the lightest color all the way to black being the number 1. And so with all these you're going to have different pigments, and so you're going to think about underlying pigments of these. They're going to be more red through here, more red orange here, more orange, and more yellow as you get up to the top. So when I put this on my hair, you can see I'm just about a level 7, and you want to make sure you check kind of the back of your hair too, because a lot of times your hair is going to be a little darker in the back, where if you go to the front of my hair, I'm a little lighter. I'm more like a level 8. Something to keep in mind when you're applying your foils is to start where the hair is the darkest. Also start where the hair is the thickest. Finer hair tends to lift faster than other hair, so does lighter hair. So I'm not going to start putting foils in my bangs. Whenever I go to a salon and get my hair color done and they start foiling in my bangs, I'm like, oh, this is not going to go well, because this hair lifts so fast that I don't need to start there. So I always start in the back of my hair, because right back here is where my hair is the darkest. So now that I know what color I am, I can go through and pick what tones I want to have. So here's all the colors from Color Sync. And so I can go through here and pick, if I wanted red or brown, cool or warm. The thing I want to remember is I want to make sure whatever is the underlying pigment in my hair color is what I want. So on here, I can get away with having a little bit more neutral tones because it's just virgin hair. I can even go a little bit more ash. But on this blonde hair, I want to make sure I have some warmth in there, because I think my hair is more flattering on me when I have an overall warmer tone than an ashier tone. And so I want to make sure I have some of that warmth mixed in so the hair color over this blonde doesn't go ashy, green, or muddy looking. So I'm actually going to be doing two formulas for my lowlights. I'm actually going to be doing a darker at the base, and then I'm going to fade it in and blend it into a lighter in the mid shaft, and then I'm actually going to leave out my blonde ends, which is going to give me an ombre effect low light, which is totally awesome, and I love doing lowlights as well. So I'm just starting off with a two-section bowl, and then I'll make sure I remember which is which, and I usually try to think like lighter brush, lighter color, the one on the left is the lighter one. I try to think of something to help me remember so I don't mix it up and then I go, oh crap, which color is which, because you do not want to put it on backwards because that would not work very well. Because my color is so gentle on the hair, I'm not going to be adding any additives into this because I feel like this color is already protective enough. So what my formula is going to be is I'm going to be doing just 1/4 of an ounce of 6WN mixed with 1/4 of an ounce of 7M. I only want to do a couple lowlights. I'm actually going to just be doing like a couple right here, a couple right here, maybe one in the back because I feel like my hair is dark enough at the roots. I don't need a lot of lowlight, so I'm going to be mixing accordingly. Now, if I was going to be doing my hair all over, I would want to make sure I have a fresh big tube, but don't overmix. If you're only going to be doing a couple foils, then there's no point in using an entire tube or entire bottle of color if you're not going to be using it because you're basically just throwing your money down the drain. Now this color mixes 1-to-1, and I have done this for so long that I can eyeball it very easily. If you're not comfortable doing that, then you can get little measuring cups so you can measure it and make sure you're getting the right amount. Another little helpful tool I have is a little color key, and what this does is you can slide it on your tube, and when you twist it down, it actually makes sure you get all the color out of it. So I'm going to go ahead and add my 6WN. You can see just a little bit in there. I'm going to be using the same amount of 7M, and I'm just going to be eyeballing it. It's always wise to buy more color than you think that you're going to need and have it because you can always mix it more, but make sure you write down what proportions you're mixing it in so when you mix it up again, you're not getting a batch that's too light or too dark. That's probably why it's good to measure, but you know, us old hairstylists, I guess, break the rules a little bit more. But you should measure it so you make sure you get the right amount. Okay, next I'm gonna go in with my 8WN and I'm gonna put it in the bowl next to it. Next I'm just gonna add my 10 volume developer and I'm gonna do equal parts of that and then I'm just gonna mix it up. So I'm gonna have my darker brush here in the dark bowl and I'm gonna have my lighter brush here in the light bowl. Okay, so these are ready to go. You can see they're just a nice white creamy formula, so it'd be easy to confuse the two. But as these start to oxidize, you'll start to see the colors come out and this one will actually turn darker. Next I'm going to be mixing up my lightener. And for that, I'm going to be using the Matrix Master Light. Because my hair is fragile and fine, I don't want to damage my hair when I'm adding in blonde. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be adding the Olaplex Bond Multiplier. I have a video exclusively on this talking about everything about it, but I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but I can link that video down below, so if you're interested in finding out more about why I use Olaplex, then you can check that out. Okay, so for today, because I'm not going to be adding a huge amount of blonde to my hair and it's also shorter, I'm just gonna do a half a scoop. But if you wanted, most of the time I would just go with the full scoop. So I'll add that in. And for every scoop or ounce, you put 1/8 of an ounce of the Olaplex. And since I'm doing half, I'm just gonna fill it halfway to that line. Just gonna squeeze it till it's halfway there. And then I'm just going to go ahead and dump it in. There we go. Now I'm done with that. Now because the Olaplex dilutes the solution a little bit, it's important to make sure you bump up your developer 1 level. Normally I'll use a 10 volume on my hair because 1, it takes me a little longer to put the foils in because I'm doing it myself, and 2, my hair lifts fairly quickly. So I'm going to bump it up to 20 volumes so that with the Olaplex added, it's now to a 10 volume. Now when you mix up your bleach or your lightener, I like to mix it up to kind of the consistency of pancake batter because it will thicken up, and if you make it too thick, it's going to get like really puffy and it will be hard to work with. But the thicker it is, the stronger it's going to be, and the thinner it is, the weaker it's going to be. So something to keep in mind that this consistency will thicken up just a little bit by the time you're ready to foil. So now I'm going to talk really quickly about foils and mesh sheets. So this is the mesh sheet. I was just using it yesterday and I did not clean it all up, so we're using a dirty one, but that's okay. So this is the mesh sheet. This is what I use when I am flat foiling or when I'm balayaging the hair. I have a little hair painting board that's curved to the scalp. This is actually from Guy Tang. And so you can actually put it on and then you can actually whoop, 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 paint the hair on, and then afterwards you just put this little mesh sheet on and it holds the hair. Now if I'm using a balayage lightener that crusts, I don't necessarily have to put another one on top, but if I'm using a regular lightener, then I go ahead and just place another one right on top and everything's covered and good to go. So I'm not going to be using these Okay, so I just use the Reynolds foil sheets, and you can buy these at like Sam's Club, you can buy them at Sally's. I buy them at where I buy my color, and they come in sheets like this. And then what I do is just take a bunch, and then they have like the little fold, and I just rip them in half, and that's the foil I use. You can also buy foil in rolls. This is just the method I prefer. And then if I have really long hair, I can also just double them up and get an extra long foil that way. And with this, I can flat foil and put two on top of each other, or I can also fold them up, and I will show you how I like to fold my foils. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to put all the foils in my hair, and then when I get to the very end at the top, I'll show you how I do one of the highlights, and I'll show you how I do one of the lowlights so we can save time, and then I'll show you the finished result. Alrighty, so I'm on the side of my hair here, so I think this will be an easy place to show you. So I went ahead and parted it off with a straight parting, and I'm using a metal rat tail comb. Some people prefer to use the regular rat tail combs that are plastic. This is just what I prefer. This is the Cricut silk comb. I love them. I have to have like 5 billion of them because they're my best friend. And just so you know, for the back, I did a few flat foils. So I just did them like this, and that's just extra hair over there. And I just used a hand mirror. So I just basically look in the back of the mirror, I hold it, I place the color to hold it, and then I turn around and I just paint it on the way I want it to. So when you're taking a section, you want to make sure that you're not taking a section that's too thick. And usually the guideline is that you want to make sure that you could read the newspaper through it. This probably is a little thicker than that, but I know I can get away with it. That's usually a guideline for taking a section. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this comb to weave, and so when you do like small fine weaves like this, or you can do chunky weaves like that, however you want, or you can take the whole slice and then just hand paint it on, and that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to start with my foil like this, and I'm actually going to fold it over my comb. This is just going to give me a little bit of insurance so that if it ends up pulling away, I can tuck that little flap back underneath, and that way it won't bleed. That's especially if you're doing it all the way to the scalp. If you're doing it like me, we're only partially going to be to the scalp, then it won't be as big of a deal. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the hair tight, and that way you can hold this down here so that this doesn't move. So then I'm going to take my brush, and I'm going to take it at an angle, and I'm just going to start stroking the color on, just kind of feathering it on up here. And then as I get towards the center, then I'm going to do it more concentrated. You want to make sure you kind of move the hair around, and so you're getting it all the way through, and that's why it's good to not have it too thick. And then as you get to the ends, if your ends are already light, then you just want to just kind of release pressure on your brush so you're not going to be overlapping the bleach onto places that's already light in the hair. The reason when you're stroking your color on you want to go this way and not this way is because if you go like this, you're going to get a line, or if you go like this, it's just going to blend in. And then what I like to use to make sure that everything is kind of seamless at the top is this is the Redken Blur brush. And you can actually just take this along the top where you just stroked it in, and it just blends it in and just gives it a nice little soft skimming of product, so that when it processes, you just have this nice blending effect instead of like a stop and start line. For this one, I'll do a flat foil. So what I do is I just put the foil right on top, and then I can kind of use my thumb to kind of pull that little flap on underneath. And then what I can do is you can use the side of your comb if it's helpful for you. Meet the sides up, and then I just fold them like this on both sides. And I don't crimp them too much because you don't want the hair to fold, especially if you've got hair in the sides, which I try to keep it in the center. So just like that. And then I just let these little ends that are already blonde hang out because I didn't want to overlap them, and I don't want to put them up over onto the bleach. So that's how you would do like a feathering highlight. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip a bunch of hair, because like I said, I'm not trying to go like all blonde right now. And I'll do a thin little section that I'm going to take to the scalp, and I'll just show you a traditional foil. So once again, get your section nice and thin, nothing too thick. And for this, I'm just gonna weave out a little bit of a chunky weave here, since I'm taking it to the scalp. You can kind of through and pick, and then you can kind of audition it, kind of lay it down and say, okay, that's where the streaks are gonna fall. Is that what I like? Foil, and put it over my comb, and then put it right up next to my scalp. Now when you're applying lightener, you don't want to go all the way to the scalp because this will swell a little bit as it processes. So I like to start a little bit farther down and then feather up to the scalp as I go. I'm going to get some product and make sure you have a good hold on the foil so it doesn't slip. Just kind of release and hold as I move down. And then I'll take it from this side. You can see where the hair's already kind of blonde. I don't want to overlap, so I'm just gonna feather the product off so there's not a harsh stop and start line, and that way I'm not going to over process these ends that are already blonde. So then I'll go back to the scalp and just kind of at an angle go in and touch it up, and as the product swells it'll get up there nice and close, but you won't get a nice line. You don't want to have that line of bleeding. And then if your hair is slipping a little, you can always pull it this way and tug the hair down. Okay, so as a traditional foil, I'll pull these to the side and then I'll just do a little mini fold at the end. Then I do a fold at the top that meets. I fold it up, flip the bottom down, and then I just kind of slide it right up next to the scalp, and then I can just pull these sides in just a little bit. Don't over crank them because you don't want to have this like flat compact foil so it smushes the color. And right here you can see how this is not flat because I don't want to make a fold or push the color out of where that foil seam is. So then I have a little packet foil. You might notice that I'm leaving my bangs out because I like to do those separately. So I'm going to actually just do this a little dark panel. So I'm going to take my dark right here, start kind of a ½ inch away from the roots, and then just kind of, you know, creep up. Don't go in guns a-blazing. And then when I get to the midsection, I'm just going to feather it down, grab my next color. I'm going to overlap where I applied that color, and that's going to give me a seamless blend. And then I'll turn my brush this way, and I'll just feather it down off onto the blonde. Biggest mistake I see hairstylists do is they go like this, stop, and then there's just this huge line. I don't want to have those lines in there. And just softly feather. It doesn't have to be perfectly even because that's what gives it the natural look. Alrighty, so I'm going to go ahead and finish these foils. On the very top, I'm just going to kind of give it some variegation, take some up all the way and then, you know, leave some down. Just give it that kind of sun-kissed look, but not be like a harsh highlight, and give it still that kind of sombre effect. Alrighty, so I went ahead and finished all my foils. Woo! And then with the bangs, what I did is I did a light piece and I did it all the way up. Then I did a little tiny bit of dark and then one more light piece, and I just kind of feathered it up to the roots, and then I'll rinse it out, and then I will show you guys when I am done. Alright guys, I'm all finished with my hair, and this is the finished result. So what I was going for was lighter in the bangs and lighter kind of right around the face here, and then still keeping the dark kind of sombre through the back with just a few pieces that would be going to the scalp every once in a while just to kind of give it some more texture. So you can see the color is just a really nice pale blonde. It's not like too ashy, it still kind of has a little bit of warmth to it. And my ends are all in still really good condition because I didn't overlap my bleach. And I'll show you what so here's what the lowlights look like. So they just give a little bit of depth to my hair, especially when I curl it, and it makes it so with adding the blonde it doesn't get too light all over. You can see that nice blend from dark to light. And I'll show you some of the blonde pieces to the scalp. Just right in there. And then when I curl it, those dark pieces kind of pop out. It gives it a nice fun texture. I'm gonna give you a little side view. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful for you and you learned something.